feeling constantly drained, lying awake at night, and a mind that won't stop racing. But have you ever wondered what's really happening when you feel this way? From burnout that leaves you exhausted, to insomnia that keeps you awake, to anxiety that affects how you think and feel, these experiences are more common and more complex than they seem. In this special compilation, we break down what these feelings really are, why they happen, and what they mean. Watch now to find out what burnout, insomnia, and anxiety really are. Right here, on History of Simple Things. We start with burnout. It's more than just being tired. It's a state of emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion that builds over time. So what actually happens when you reach burnout? The term burnout was introduced in the 1970s by psychologist Herbert Freudenberger, who observed that once passionate healthcare workers were becoming emotionally drained, detached, and cynical, feeling not just tired, but empty. He likened it to a fire that had burned out. Today, burnout is widely recognized, with the World Health Organization defining it as chronic workplace stress marked by exhaustion, detachment, and reduced effectiveness. Interestingly, burnout isn't a modern phenomenon, even if we've only recently given it a name. Historical accounts suggest that monks, artisans, and even soldiers experienced similar states of exhaustion and disillusionment when their efforts were relentless and unacknowledged. What's changed today is the speed and intensity of modern life. With constant connectivity and expectations, these feelings can arise faster and more pervasively than ever before. Stress and burnout are often confused, but they're different. Stress feels like too much, while burnout feels like too little. Too little energy, motivation, and hope. It develops quietly over time, often disguised as dedication, working late, skipping breaks, and constantly saying yes. What starts as passion gradually turns into exhaustion and resentment, until even meaningful work begins to feel empty. Burnout doesn't just affect how people feel, it changes how they think and behave. Emotionally, it can lead to irritability, anxiety, or even a sense of numbness. Mentally, it can reduce concentration, creativity, and decision-making ability. Physically, it can show up as headaches, sleep problems, or a weakened immune system. It's not just in your head, it's something that impacts the entire body. Burnout isn't just about working too much. It can also come from a lack of control, unclear expectations, or feeling disconnected from the purpose of what you do. That's why even people with manageable workloads can still feel burned out. It can affect anyone, from professionals to students and caregivers. Anywhere prolonged pressure exists without enough support or time to recover. Another surprising truth about burnout is that it often affects the most passionate people the hardest. Those who care deeply about their work are more likely to push themselves beyond their limits. They may ignore early warning signs because they feel a strong sense of responsibility or identity tied to what they do. Ironically, the very qualities that drive success, commitment, empathy, ambition, can also increase vulnerability to burnout. Some researchers have even found that burnout can spread almost like a social contagion. Being around colleagues or peers who are exhausted, disengaged, or cynical can subtly influence your own mindset and energy levels. This means that the culture and mood of your environment don't just shape productivity, they shape well-being, making awareness and support systems even more critical. Technology has blurred the line between work and rest. What once ended at the office now follows people everywhere through smartphones, emails, and constant notifications, making it hard to truly switch off. Social media adds to this by fueling constant comparison, increasing pressure to do more, even when already overwhelmed. The result is a cycle where rest feels unproductive and no amount of effort ever feels enough. So how do you know if what you're experiencing is burnout? It often starts with subtle signs. You may feel unusually tired even after resting. Tasks that once felt manageable now feel draining. You might find yourself becoming more cynical or detached, especially toward work or responsibilities. There may also be a noticeable drop in performance, not because you're incapable, but because your energy and focus are depleted. As burnout worsens, motivation fades. Small problems feel overwhelming and interest in once enjoyed activities declines. In severe cases, it can overlap with depression or anxiety. While recovery isn't just about rest, setting boundaries, reassessing priorities, seeking support, and balancing effort with breaks can help, alongside recognizing that productivity doesn't equal worth. Organizations also play a crucial role in addressing burnout. Supportive leadership, clear communication, and a healthy work culture can make a significant difference. When people feel valued, understood, and empowered, they are less likely to reach the point of burnout. Burnout isn't a weakness. It's a signal that demands are exceeding your capacity. Ignore it, and it only grows louder. In a world that often celebrates constant hustle and productivity, talking about burnout is more important than ever. It challenges the idea that working harder is always the answer. Sometimes the answer is stepping back, reassessing, and allowing space to recover. Burnout isn't just tiredness, it's emotional, mental, and physical depletion. Recognizing it is the first step to recovery and a reminder that our energy, like us, isn't unlimited. And when that exhaustion lingers, it can start to affect your sleep, leading us to insomnia. Everyone struggles with sleep sometimes, but when does it become something more serious? At its simplest, insomnia is a sleep disorder where a person has trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or both. But that definition barely scratches the surface. Insomnia isn't just about having a bad night. Everyone has nights where sleep doesn't come easily. Maybe you're stressed, excited, or had too much coffee. That's normal. What separates insomnia from occasional sleeplessness is persistence. If sleep problems happen regularly and start affecting how you function during the day, your mood, focus, energy, or even your health, that's when it becomes insomnia. There are actually two main types: acute insomnia, short-term, often triggered by stress or life events; chronic insomnia, long-term, lasting at least 3 nights a week for 3 months or more. And here's what makes it tricky. Insomnia isn't always about not sleeping at all. Sometimes people with insomnia do sleep, but it's light, fragmented, or not restorative, so you wake up feeling just as tired as when you went to bed. To understand insomnia, you have to understand sleep itself. Sleep isn't just switching off. It's a highly coordinated process controlled by your brain, especially regions that regulate your circadian rhythm, your internal body clock. This clock is influenced by light, hormones, and daily habits. One of the key players is melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, which signals your body that it's time to wind down. In people with insomnia, this system can become disrupted. Instead of powering down at night, the brain stays alert, almost like it's stuck in daytime mode. Researchers often describe insomnia as a state of hyperarousal, meaning your body is physically and mentally too awake to sleep. Your heart rate may be slightly elevated, your thoughts may race. Even if you feel exhausted, your brain refuses to let go. It's like trying to fall asleep with a switch that won't turn off. There isn't just one cause of insomnia. It's usually a combination of factors that build on each other over time. One of the biggest triggers is stress. Big life changes like moving, losing a job, or going through a breakup can throw your sleep completely off balance. But stress doesn't have to be dramatic. Even everyday worries can keep your brain active long after your head hits the pillow. Then there are lifestyle habits. Irregular sleep schedules, late-night screen use, too much caffeine or alcohol, and napping too much during the day. All of these can confuse your body's internal clock. Health also plays a role. Conditions like anxiety disorder, depression, and chronic pain are closely linked to insomnia, and sometimes insomnia feeds itself. You have a few bad nights of sleep, then you start worrying about not sleeping, which makes it even harder to sleep the next night. It becomes a cycle. We often treat sleep as optional, something we can sacrifice when life gets busy. But insomnia proves that sleep isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. When you don't sleep properly, the effects show up almost immediately. Difficulty concentrating, irritability or mood swings, slower reaction times, and memory problems. Over time, the consequences become more serious. Chronic insomnia has been linked to increased risk of conditions like heart disease, weakened immune function, and even metabolic issues. But one of the most overlooked effects is emotional. When you're sleep-deprived, your brain becomes more sensitive to stress and negative emotions. Small problems feel bigger, patience runs thinner, everything feels just a little harder. It's not just that you're tired, it's that your entire system is off balance. One of the most frustrating things about insomnia is that the harder you try to sleep, the harder it becomes. That's because sleep isn't something you can force. Imagine trying to force yourself to relax. The effort itself creates tension. The same thing happens with sleep. When you lie in bed thinking, "I need to fall asleep right now," your brain interprets that as pressure. That pressure triggers alertness, not relaxation. This is why insomnia often turns bedtime into a stressful experience. The bed, something that should signal comfort, starts to feel like a place of struggle. And over time, your brain learns that pattern. One reason insomnia feels so common today is that modern life isn't designed for good sleep. Artificial lighting keeps our nights bright. Smartphones keep our minds engaged. Work schedules often ignore natural rhythms. Even entertainment plays a role. Streaming platforms make it easy to say, "just one more episode," until it's suddenly 3 a.m. In a way, insomnia isn't just a personal issue. It's a reflection of how we live. We've created a world where rest is often pushed aside, even though our bodies still depend on it. So, what exactly is insomnia? It's not just the absence of sleep, it's a complex condition where the brain and body fall out of sync, where rest becomes effort and nights become something to endure instead of enjoy. But understanding insomnia changes how we see it. It's not about laziness, it's not about bad habits alone, and it's definitely not something you can fix by simply trying harder. And when sleep is disrupted, the mind can start to race, bringing us to anxiety. It's something we all feel. But what exactly is it, and why does it affect us so strongly? At its core, anxiety is your body's natural response to perceived danger or uncertainty. It's not just worry or overthinking, it's a full-body experience. When you feel anxious, your brain is essentially saying, "Something might be wrong. Get ready." This triggers a chain reaction in your body. Your heart beats faster, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense up, and your mind scans for threats. This response is closely tied to what scientists call the fight-or-flight response, a survival mechanism that humans have had for thousands of years. So anxiety isn't random. It's your body trying to protect you. To understand anxiety, we have to go back in time, way back. Imagine early humans living in the wild. If they heard a rustle in the bushes, it could be a predator. The ones who reacted quickly, who felt that surge of fear and adrenaline, were more likely to survive. Anxiety was useful. It kept people alive. That same system still exists in us today. The problem? Our world has changed, but our brains haven't caught up. Instead of predators, we now face things like deadlines, social pressure, financial stress, and uncertainty about the future. Your brain doesn't always know the difference between a life-threatening danger and a stressful email. To your body, both can trigger the same alarm system. A key player in anxiety is a small part of the brain called the amygdala. Think of the amygdala as your brain's alarm system. Its job is to detect threats and sound the alarm when something feels off. When the amygdala senses danger, real or imagined, it sends signals to the rest of your body to prepare for action. That's when you feel the physical symptoms of anxiety. But here's where it gets tricky. The amygdala doesn't always rely on logic. It reacts quickly, sometimes too quickly, and can misinterpret harmless situations as threats. That's why you might feel anxious about things that don't seem dangerous at all. Anxiety and fear are closely related, but they're not the same thing. Fear is a response to an immediate, real threat. Example, a car suddenly swerves toward you. Anxiety is a response to a potential or future threat. Example, worrying about a job interview tomorrow. Fear is short-lived and disappears once the danger is gone. Anxiety, on the other hand, can linger. It can stick around even when nothing is actually happening. That's why anxiety often feels harder to turn off. Feeling anxious occasionally is completely normal. In fact, it can even be helpful. A little anxiety can keep you alert, help you prepare, and motivate you to take action. But sometimes, anxiety becomes more than just a temporary feeling. When it becomes constant, overwhelming, or starts interfering with daily life, it may be linked to conditions like anxiety disorder. This can include generalized anxiety, constant worrying, panic attacks, sudden, intense fear, and social anxiety, fear of being judged. In these cases, the brain's alarm system is essentially stuck in on mode, even when there's no real danger. One of the most confusing things about anxiety is how physical it feels. You might experience a racing heart, sweaty palms, dizziness, nausea, and tightness in your chest. This happens because anxiety activates your body's stress response. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood your system, preparing you to either fight or run. But if there's nothing to fight and nowhere to run, that energy has nowhere to go. So it builds up, making the sensation even more uncomfortable. That's why anxiety doesn't just feel like a thought, it feels like something happening to your entire body. While anxiety is physical, it's also deeply connected to your thoughts. Your brain is constantly trying to predict the future. It asks questions like, what if something goes wrong? What if I fail? And what if people judge me? This what-if thinking is actually meant to help you prepare, but sometimes it spirals out of control. The brain starts imagining worst-case scenarios, even when they're unlikely. And the more you think about them, the more real they feel. It becomes a loop. You think something bad might happen. Your body reacts with anxiety. The physical feeling convinces you the threat is real, and you think about it even more, and the cycle continues. Anxiety can feel overwhelming, confusing, and even scary. But when you understand what it is and why it happens, it starts to feel a little less mysterious. It's not just random panic. It's not just in your head. It's a deeply rooted survival system that's been with humans for thousands of years. And while it doesn't always get things right, it's doing what it was designed to do: keep you safe. And sometimes understanding is the first step toward feeling more in control. And that's how these common experiences are more connected than they seem, each one influencing the other in ways we often don't notice. Want to see your top 3 favorite History of Simple Things topics compiled in one mega video? Comment your suggestion below, and we'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.